don't often go to Vrindavan. So this is special Ekadasi pastime. So before we start, we have a very beautiful song about Lord Chaitanya. Because it's only by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya that we see anything that we see in Braj. He came here and he discovered Radhakund and Chamakund and revealed them to the eyes of the world. He sent the 6 Goswamis to uncover all the lost holy places. So everything we see is only by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. So we have a nice song about Lord Chaitanya. Now most of our song bhajans, because we're Gaudiya Sampradaya, they're all in Bengali, especially if it's about Lord Chaitanya. Must be in Bengali. But this song, actually it's not even in Hindi, it's in Brij Bhasa, the language of Braj. And the part that comes again and again, the refrain, is very easy. You'll learn in 2 seconds and sing with us. Or you can look up in your device. My songbook says Sundara Lala. Other songbooks say Sundara Bala. But somewhere, either one of those, you look up and you'll find it on your device. And we can't seem to find our kartals, but this is kar, and tal means surface, just like we say Prabhupada is on the surface of Bhutale. So this surface, so this is kartal. Sundara Lala Sachidu Lala Nachata Sri Hari Kirtaname. Sundara Lala Sachidu Lala Nachata Sri Hari Kirtaname. Balle Chandana Tilaka Manohara Alaka Shobe Kapolaname. Balle Chandana Tilaka Manohara Alaka Shobe Kapolaname. Bolo Sundara Lala Sachidu Lala Nachata Sri Hari Kirtaname. Sundara Lala Sachidu Lala Nachata Sri Hari Kirtaname. Shire Chuda Darasani Rale Vanapula Mala Hiya Pardole. Shire Chuda Darasani Rale Vanapula Mala Hiya Pardole. Pahirna Pita Patambara Shobe Nupura Runu Junu Tadadandame. Pahirna Tibrada Nada Shobe Parina Ramana Sobe. Sundara Lala Sachidu Lala Najata Sri Hari Kirtaname. Sundara Lala Sachidu Lala Nachata Sri Hari Kirtaname. Radha Krishna Ekatanue Nirubana Maje Bansi Bajave. Radha Krishna Ekatanue Madhuna Maje Bansi Bajave. Visvarupa ki Prabhu ji sahi avata prakatahi nadiya me. Visvarupa ki Prabhu ji sahi avata prakatahi nadiya me. Bolo Sundara Lala Sachidu Lala Nachata Sri Hari Kirtaname. Sundara Lala Sachidu Lala Ajata Sri Hari Kirtaname. Koi Bhagavata Hai Radha Krishna Nam. Koi Gavata Hai Hari Gunagan. Koi Gavata Hai Radha Krishna Nam. Koi Gavata Hai Hari Gunagan. Mridanga tala madura rasala bajata hai koi rangana mein. Mridanga tala madura rasala bajata hai koi rangana mein. Bolo sundara lala Sachidulala Nachata Sri Hari Kirtana Me Sundara Lala Sachidulala Nachata Sri Hari Kirtana Me Nachata Sri Hari Kirtana Me Nachata Sri Hari Kirtana Me. Bolo Sri Satinandana Gaura Hari Bo. So we welcome you all on this Sat Tilakadasi morning to our program here in VIHE, Vrindavan Experience. And today we'll go to a forest that we hardly ever experience because we hardly ever go there, though it's very close by. You just go over the railway bridge on the way to Radhakund. And then you make a U-turn on the left side and come back on the left side of the bridge. And then there's a road to the right. And you take that road and you keep following it and you come to Bahulavan. And Bahulavan is a very, very interesting forest. It's named after a cow named Bahula. So one time, Bahula, she was very, very pregnant. And Ekadasi came. And she decided to do Nirjal Vrat. Now, generally for the pregnant ladies, we don't recommend this. But anyway, she was a very pious cow. So she did Nirjal on Ekadasi. The next morning, on Dwadasi morning, her calf was born. So she just did Nirjal whole day. Now she just went through the trauma of childbirth. She was so thirsty. She didn't even feed her calf that first milk. Because the first milk of the cow, after the calf is born, that's called cholesterol. Even the commercial dairies, although they're bent on making as much money and profit as they can, they know this is not fit for human consumption. It's only meant for the calf to give him probiotics. We create antibiotics against life, but nature has probiotics again with life, promoting life, probiotics. So without even feeding her calf, she just went off to look for water. Now, if you've watched the Discovery Channel, you know the water hole is where the predators hang out, waiting for some poor animal to come and drink water. So she was drinking water and immediately a great lion jumped out. And she bowed before that lion and said, please don't eat me. I promise I'll come back. I have to feed my first milk to my calf. Then I'll come back, I promise. So we know that lions are very, very ferocious. But still somehow or other, legend has it that they're very, very noble animals. So he said, all right, you go feed your calf and I'll be waiting here. Meanwhile, I'll do my Facebook. So she went off to feed her calf. And while she was feeding her calf, she was crying. And the calf asked, Mata, why are you crying? And she said, Lala, this is the last time I will see you. He said, why is that? And she told him the whole story. And he said, no, Mata, you gave me life. How can I see you die? I will go, let me die. And the mother cow said, look, Bahula said, look, I'm an old cow. I've already lived my life so much. You're just starting life. You live your life. Don't worry. I will go. No, Mata. How can I see my mother die? I will go. So like this, they were arguing and crying. Suddenly the cowherd boy appeared on the scene. And he saw his cow and his calf were arguing. Finally, he understood the argument. He said, no, no, you're my cow. You've given me milk your whole life. How can I see you die? I will go. And my new calf just born, how can you die? I will go. He said, no, no, you have treated me so kindly. My whole life you fed me and took care of me. How can I see you die? I will go. No, no, no. How can I see my mother or my cowherd boy die? I will go. They were all arguing like this. So finally, the three of them, they couldn't make up their minds. So the three of them went to the lion. Now, lion, he was so surprised. He looked up. He saw, he's only expecting one, and he saw three. And the cow says, no, no, you please eat me. And no, 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 you don't kill my mother. You please eat me. No, 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 you don't kill my cow and calf. You please eat me. They were all talking like this. We don't see this nobility anymore. If somehow or other there's a big trouble and we can get out of it and somebody else has to take the problem, then we're very, very happy. But to put ourselves in problem for somebody else, no, nobody's ready to do that anymore. Not these days. But just see in previous ages how noble the people were. So the lion, he was so surprised that everyone was willing to sacrifice his life for the other. He decided he lost his desire to eat anyone. At that moment, Sri Krishna appeared on the scene and he played on his flute. As he played on his flute, suddenly everyone understood his real identity. Actually, one time, the Shastra says there was two Gandharvas named Huhu and Haha. It's actually in the Shastra, Huhu and Haha. And they were doing some performance for the demigods. So they were singing and dancing and doing their performance. Just that moment, Pipalayana Rishi appeared along with Narad Muni. And all the demigods stood up and offered respect. And Pipalayana Rishi became very angry. Are everyone showed us respect except for you two? You're just like animals. Therefore, you two should become animals on the earth. And who said, wait a minute. You're a great yogi. You're Trikalagya. You can see past, present, and future. You said in meditation and see whether within our hearts we did not offer you respects. We were busy doing our performance. So within our hearts, we paid sastang pranam. I said, really? So he sat down in meditation, he went into the past, and then he saw that they actually paid sastang pranams, dandavats, to him when he and Narad Muni entered. He said, now what to do? I cannot take back the curse. But since it is my fault, I will also go to the earth. And this Narad Muni, he did not stop me. I'll just see the electricity went on. He did not stop me. So he shall also go. And this earth, she was a witness. She didn't make any objection. Earth will also go. So Bahula was the earth. The cowherd boy was Pipalayana Rishi. The calf was Narad Muni. And the lion was Huhu. They all realized their original identities. And they were completely amazed. Now the question always comes, whatever happened to Haha? Huhu became the lion. So whatever happened to Haha? In one purport in that particular part of Srimad Bhagavatam about Gajendra Moksha, Prabhupada explains that Haha was a Gandharva who was cursed to become an animal on the earth. So he became the crocodile who attacked Gajendra. So that's what happened to Haha. So when you get to Bahulavad, there's a small temple on the one side from Pusti Marg from Ballava Sampradaya. And then there's a beautiful lake. Now they've made it very nice. On the other side of the lake, there's a nice ghat. And we go on that ghat, and down below, we go down below. There's a little shrine, and there's this marble plaque. And on that marble plaque, you can see Bahula the cow, you can see the lion, you can see the cowherd boy, and you can see the calf. And you can see Sri Krishna playing on his flute. So this is a very special forest. In fact, this forest, although it's not specifically mentioned in Chaitanya Charitamrita, but by the circumstances, we can understand that it talks about Mahaprabhu traveling through the forest. At first, he went to Bisram Ghat. He took his bath in Bisram Ghat. Then there's 12 ghats on the south side, and there's 12 ghats on the north side. So Mahaprabhu took his bath in all the 24 ghats in Mathura. And there he met one Brahmin who began to dance and chant in ecstasy. And so they were both chanting and dancing, and he was demonstrating ecstatic love. Everyone was so amazed to see both of these people. So Mahaprabhu asked him, you appear to be very, very advanced in spiritual life. And explained that one time Madhavendra Puri came to Mathura and I invited him to my house and I fed him with my own cooking. Because Prabhupada explains in the purport that he was from a particular Brahmin community. The sannyasis generally don't take prasad at their houses. But Madhavendra Puri took prasad at his house. And Mahaprabhu fell down at his feet. And that poor Brahmin, he was shocked. Wait a minute, what is this? And then Balabhadra Bhattacharya, who was traveling with Mahaprabhu, explained Mahaprabhu's connection. He said, you're on the level of my spiritual master. Because he was a disciple of Iswar Puri, who was a disciple of Madhavendra Puri. So he said, then you can come to my house and your Brahmin associate, he can cook. He said, no, you will cook. If Madhavendra Puri ate your cooking, then whatever a great man does, the common men follow. I must also accept your cooking. So Mahaprabhu went to his house and took prasad. Then Mahaprabhu visited the Sri Krishna Janmastan and a few other places in Mathura. Then it describes that he went to Madhavan, where we went last time. And next forest is Kamudvan. Then there's, next forest is Talavan, then Kamudvan, and then comes Bahulavan. And from Bahulavan, we go to Radhakund. So it doesn't say Bahulavan specifically, but from the circumstances, because after Mahaprabhu was wandering through this forest, he started off toward Govardhan Hill. So we can understand it was Bahulavan. And there's beautiful description. I won't be able to do it justice by paraphrasing it. I will just read the description of Mahaprabhu traveling through the Bahulavan forest. As we move on from Kamudvan, we come to Bahulavan. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, chapter 17, verses 194 to 222 and 227 to 230, it describes when Mahaprabhu went to Bahulavan. When Sri Chaitanya passed through Vrindavan, herds of grazing cows saw him pass and immediately surrounding him began to moo very loudly. Seeing the herds approach him, the Lord was stunned with ecstatic love. The cows then began to lick the body in great affection. Becoming pacified, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu began to caress the cows, and the cows, being unable to give up his company, went with him. It was with great difficulty that the cowherd men were able to keep the cows back. Then when the Lord chanted, all the deer heard his sweet voice and approached him. When the does and bucks saw the Lord's face, they began to lick his body, not at all being afraid of him. They accompanied him along the path. Bumblebees and birds like the parrot and cuckoo all began to sing very loudly. And the peacocks began to dance in front of the Lord. In this winter season, we don't hear the peacocks, and they're not dancing, and we don't hear the cuckoos. But as soon as it starts to warm up, this is a sign that the hot weather is on its way. As soon as you, early in the morning, you hear somebody going, see, they start off low. Then they go higher. Then they start over again. And sometimes they have another song. Then there's another song. Because already warmed up in Mayapur, you already hear them in Mayapur. When you go for Mayapur festival, you hear these birds singing outside your window. And their most famous song, because here it says they on the fifth note. Saragama pa. That's fifth note. They go on the fifth note. That's their most famous song. So you won't hear them for a while here. They're already, we were talking with someone in Mayapur the other day, and we could hear in the background the cuckoos singing. And the parrot and the peacocks are also quiet. And the cuckoos, one thing, you'll hear them, but you'll never see them. They're very, very shy. They like to go in the bakul tree, which has very dense foliage, and you can't see them. When you finally see the cuckoo, you'll be very disappointed. The Hindi poets say, this Bhagwan, he's not a very intelligent creator. He has made this peacock with such beautiful feathers. But his voice is just a squawk. And this cuckoo, he has so sweet, beautiful voice. Actually, Radharani is called Kokilaveni. Her voice is just as sweet as a cuckoo. And he's black as a crow. When you finally see a cuckoo, you'll be very disappointed. Kokila. Prabhupada translates cuckoo, but I've heard another bird go cuckoo, cuckoo, especially in Nepal. So this kokila, he's black as a crow. In fact, the female kokila, she's very, very clever. She goes in the crow's nest and lays her eggs. And then she's finished. The crow raises her own babies. And the baby kokilas, they make more noise than the crows, so they get most of the nourishment. Like that. She's very clever. So all these birds, peacocks were dancing, and kokila, they were singing. Upon seeing Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the trees and creepers of Vrindavan became jubilant. Their twigs stood up as they began to shed tears of ecstasy in the form of honey. The trees and creepers, overloaded with fruits and flowers, fell down at the lotus feet of the Lord and greeted him with various presentations, as if they were old friends. Thus, all the moving and non-moving living entities of Vrindavan became very jubilant to see the Lord. It was as if friends were made happy by seeing another friend. Seeing their affection, the Lord was moved by ecstatic love. He began to sport with them exactly as friends sport with another friend. Thus, he voluntarily came under the control of his friends. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu began to embrace each and every tree and creeper. And they began to offer their fruits and flowers as if in meditation. The Lord's body was restless. Tears and trembling and jubilation were manifest. He said loudly, "Chant Krishna, chant Krishna." All moving and non-moving creatures began to vibrate the transcendental sound of Hare Krishna, as if they were echoing the deep sound of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The Lord then clasped the deer by the neck, and tears were in their eyes. There was jubilation manifest in the bodies of the deer, and they began to cry. When a male and female parrot appeared on the branches of a tree, the Lord saw them and wanted to hear them speak. Both parrots flew onto the hand of the Lord and began to chant the transcendental qualities of Krishna, and the Lord listened to them. The male parrot sang, "The glorification of Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is beneficial to everyone in the universe. His beauty is victorious over the gopis." Quick, bring yours. Over the gopis of Vrindavan, and it subdues their patience. His pastimes astound the goddess of fortune, and his bodily strength that turns Govardhan Hill into a small toy like a ball. His spotless qualities are unlimited, and his behavior satisfies everyone. Lord Krishna is attractive to everyone. Oh, may our Lord maintain the whole universe. After hearing this description of Lord Krishna from the male parrot, the female parrot began to recite a description of Srimati Radharani. The female parrot said, "Srimati Radharani's affection, her exquisite beauty and good behavior, her artistic dancing and chanting, and her poetic compositions are all so attractive that they attract the mind of Krishna, who attracts the mind of everyone in the universe." Thereafter, the male parrot said, "Krishna is the enchanter of the mind of Cupid." And then he began to recite another verse. The parrot then said, "My dear Sari, female parrot, Sri Krishna carries a flute and enchants the hearts of all women throughout the universe. He is especially an enjoyer of beautiful gopis, and he is the enchanter of Cupid also. Let him be glorified." Then the female parrot began to speak jokingly to Sukha. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was struck with wonderful, ecstatic love to hear her speak. Sari said, "When Lord Sri Krishna is with Radharani, he is the enchanter of Cupid. Otherwise, when he is alone, he himself is enchanted by Srimati Radharani." Both the parrots then flew to a tree branch, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu began to watch them watch the dancing of the peacocks with curiosity. When the Lord saw the bluish necks of the peacocks, his remembrance of Krishna immediately awakened, and he fell to the ground in ecstatic love. My goodness. When the Brahmin saw that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was unconscious, he and Balabhadra Bhattacharya took care of him. They hastily sprinkled water over the Lord's body. That same Brahmin accompanied them on their trip. Then they took up his cloth and began to fan him with it. They began to chant the holy name of Krishna into the Lord's ear. When the Lord regained consciousness, he began rolling on the ground. When the Lord rolled on the ground, sharp thorns injured his body, Taking him on his lap, Balavajra Bhattacharya pacified him. The Lord's ecstatic love increased 1,000 times when he visited Mathura, but it increased 100,000 times when he wanders in the forests of Vrindavan. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was elsewhere, the very name of Vrindavan was sufficient to increase his ecstatic love. Just imagine this Vrindavan experience, huh? Now, when he was actually traveling in the Vrindavan forest, his mind was absorbed in great ecstatic love, day and night. He ate and bathed simply out of habit. Thus, I have written a description of the ecstatic love of Lord Chaitanya manifested while he walked through the 12 forests of Vrindavan. To describe it all would be impossible. So from this point, Mahaprabhu heads towards Govardhan Hill. So, because from Bahulavan, next stop is Govardhan, we can understand. It doesn't say in Chaitanya Charitamrita, but I've understood that this was a description of Bahulavan. Of course, it'd be taken of any of the forests, because it says when he traveled through the forest, it'd be impossible to describe his ecstasy. But he was going on Prikrama, just like we also go on Prikrama. But he didn't go like us by AC bus and car. He went on his own 2 feet with his hand raised in the air, chanting very loudly, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And he was totally lost in ecstasy, no external consciousness. Then as he came towards Govardhan Hill, he reached one village, and the villager mentioned that this is a ritagram. As soon as the sound of ritagram entered Mahaprabhu's ear, he immediately returned to his external consciousness. And he asked everyone, where is Radhakund and Shyamakund? But nobody could tell him. They were lost to the eyes of the world. But then Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, being the self-same Brajendananda and Shyam Sundar, he sat underneath a tamal tree. There's a beautiful ghat called Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Betak. We hope it becomes very beautiful. Just now, they've destroyed everything there. I have a dear friend named Paramananda Babaji from Philippines. And he's fixed up Raghunath Dasa's place. He's fixed up Teen Goswami Samadhi. He's fixed up Manjanava's place. So everywhere he's been, all nice carved stone, carved pink stone, very nice. So we hope also he'll do something very, very nice for Mahaprabhu's Betak. But he sat under a tamal tree. It's also known as Tamal Tala. But unfortunately, that tamal tree has left this world. The same year as Srila Prabhupada's centennial, that tamal tree left this world. So sitting under this tree, he noticed that there was 2 paddy fields. One was called Kali, and one was called Gori. So we can understand Kali means, of course, black. And Gori, of course, means golden. So we get understood that this is none other than Radhakund and Shyamakund. So with whatever, whatever water was there, he took his bath and began to offer so many beautiful prayers. Now all those prayers, we can find them in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Even in your own language, now Chaitanya Charitamrita is in so many languages. You can learn these prayers. Very, very beautiful prayers. Sabha Gopi Haite Radha Krishna Ra Prayasi Taiche Radha Kunda Priya Priya Rasa Rasi. Sabha Gopi Haite, of all the gopis, Radha Krishna Ra Priyasi. Radha Rani is most dear to Krishna. Sabha Gopi Hati Radha Krishna Da Priyasi Taite Radha Kunda Priya Priya Rasa Rasi. In the same way, Sarasi, this Kund, known as Radha Kund, is just as dear to Krishna. From Padma Puran, Ita Radha Priya Vishnus Tasya Kundam Priyam Tata Sarva Gopishu Saivaika Vishnur Atyanta Ballabha. Ita Radha Priya Vishnus, just as Radha is very dear to Krishna. Tasya Kundam Priyam Tata. This Kund, known as Radha Kund, is just as dear to Krishna. Sarva, we all know Sarva by now. Sarva means all. Sarva Gopishu Saivaika. Aika, ek. There's one. Sarva Gopishu Saivaika Vishnu Atyanta Ballabha. When we want to say the extreme, we say Atyant. The mostest, bestest. Sarva Gopishu Saivaika Vishnu Atyanta Ballabha. There's one who's Atyant. She's mostest belovedest of Krishna. Then this very nice verse. Even just by reading Prabhupada's books and hearing a little bit of Sanskrit here and there, you'll understand this verse, even though it's in Bengali. Actually, our great Acharya, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he has stated that the people of the world will learn Bengali just to relish Chaitanya Charitamrita. So you listen carefully to this verse and see if you can understand it. E kunde nitya Krishna radhikara sange jale jala keli kore tire rasa range. E kunde nitya Krishna. In this kund, e kunde nitya Krishna, always Krishna, radhikara sange, in the song of Radharani. E kunde nitya Krishna radhikara sange jale. Of course, now we're in Braj, we say pani. But in Bengal, we say jal. And in the jal, jale, keli kori. They did water pastimes. Or tire, we know we sing every day, tire, rasa. And on the banks, they did rasa lila. You can understand this one, E kunde nitya Krishna radhikara sange jale jala keli kori tire rasa range. Se kunde se ek bara kore snana tanna radha sama prema Krishna kore dana. In this kund, some say ek bar kore snan. If somebody one time takes his bath in this kund, tanri, then Radha Sama Prema Krishna Kore Dana. We heard this word Sama before, just like in Bhagavad Gita. Samoham Sarvabhuteshu. I'm equal to everyone. So Radha Sama Prema Krishna Kore Dana. That praying equal to Srimati Radharani's, Krishna gives dana. Krishna gives charity. Of course, when we go to Radhakund, so many Brahmins are there to take charity from us. But Krishna, he's giving charity. What is that? Radha Sama Prema. That prema equal to Radharani, Krishna gives in charity. What is that? Kundara Mahima Yada Radhara Mahima. Kundara Madhuri Rena Radharam Madhurima. This kund is just as glorious as the glories of Srimati Radharani. And this kund is just as sweet as the Madhurima, the sweetness of Srimati Radharani. So reciting all these prayers, Mahaprabhu took his bath. And he revealed Radhakund and Shyamakund to the eyes of the world. Then he took mud from the bank and he made tilak all over his body with Radhakund mud. In fact, he gathered up some mud and gave it to Balabhadra Bhattacharya to carry with him Hmm? So sometimes it's nice to put tilak with this gray Radhakund mud. So as I was saying, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally revealed Radhakund and Shyamakund to the eyes of the world, and he sent the Goswamis to uncover all the lost holy places. So every place we see, we're indebted to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Now the pastime of Radhakund is very, very interesting. Radhakund's appearance. That one time, Krishna was on the banks of Radhakund, and he was ready to do ras with all the gopis. When he got the news that this Aristasura, this is why when he heard Aristagram, why hearing Aristagram did he think of Radhakund and Shyamakund? Because the original name of this place is Aristagram, where Krishna killed Aristasura. Now we just heard how Radhakund is a very sweet Madhurya Ras place. So how is it possible? What is the connection between a demon, Aristasura, in this place? What happened was he got the news this Aristasura was terrorizing the Brishbasis. So this terrorism is not something new. We thought it was something new. But this has been going for at least for the last 5,000 years at least. This was Arista bin Laden. He was tearing up the ground with his hooves. He was smashing the Brishbasi houses with his horns. By his roaring, the Brishbasinis were having miscarriages. His tail was so tall, it was swatting the clouds here and there. Anyway, he took one look at Krishna and snorted very loudly, dug up the earth, pointed his horns, and began to charge. Krishna just put his hand on the shoulder of one of his friends, and nectar devotion is described. So he was not concerned at all. And Aristasura charged at him. He grabbed him by the horns, swung him around and around and around, and smashed him on the ground, then stomped on him like a wet sponge. And he passed to the kingdom of death. Then Krishna said, all right. He began to clean himself, dust himself up. So, all right, now we can do ras. And Radharani and the gopis said, how we can do ras with you? You have done a big pop. You have done a big sin. You killed a bull. And Krishna, that wasn't a bull. That was a demon. And Radharani said, may have been a demon, but he was in the form of a bull. May have been in the form of a bull, but he was a demon. And Radharani said, well, we heard from Mother Purnamasi that one time Indra killed a demon. We all heard of Vritrasura, right? He was a Brahmin. Indra got reaction. He had to hide in the lake of lotuses. That old lady coughing with tuberculosis, coughing blood, came chasing after him. He got reaction. So Krishna, all right, what do I have to do? And Radharani and all the Sakhis consulted one another. You will have to take bath in all the holy places of the universe. And Krishna, Are, that will take a long time. How I can be away from you girls for so long? I will call all the holy places here in one place and take my bath. And Gopi said, oh Krishna, don't try to fool us with your magic. We don't believe in your magic. And then Krishna, with his right foot, he stomped a huge depression in the ground. And he played on his flute and he called all the holy places of the universe. And they all appeared there bowing down before him. He said, any seva for us? Any service? He says, yes. You give your introduction, you chant your mantra, and you pour your water in my kund. So everyone came forward that I'm Jamuna, I'm Narmada, I'm Sindhu, I'm Kavari. They all gave their introduction, chanted their names, their mantras, excuse me, and poured their water in Krishna's kund. And Krishna, because when we love one another, we don't even need words. We usually speak in very soft words, pss, 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 pss. Or sometimes we don't even use words because our hearts are very close together. So Krishna, just by his eyes, sometimes just by eyes, we communicate with our lover. So Krishna, just by his eyes, he was showing the gopis. See, I told you, they're coming. Then he finally took his bath. And he invited Radharani, all the gopis, you please come in the water, we'll enjoy water pastimes. And Radharani, the gopis said, Are, this kund is contaminated with your sin. How we can come in this kund? We're going to make our own kund. So on the other side, there was a place where Ristasura had dug his hoof into the ground. There was a depression. So they broke their golden bangles. Golden bangle means kankan, or sometimes kangan. And they began to dig. So right in the center, at the bottom of Radhakund, there's the original kund, Kankan Kund. In fact, you can go on YouTube and type in cleaning of Radhakund or Kankan Kund or Kangan Kund. And you can see videos of that actual kund in the middle. I saw both in 1987 and I think it was 2010. Both times I saw the cleaning, I got darshan of Kankan Kund. We just went down, we circumambulated in mud up to our calves and took some water from Kankan Kund on their heads. Both times we saw. And when they were finished digging their kund, because all the Sakis, they also broke their kankans and they began to dig. Then Krishna said, Are, your kund is very nice, but there's no water in it. And Radharani said, all right, we're going to bring water from Manasi Ganga with gold and silver water pots, and hundreds and thousands of gopis will have one line going, one line coming, and we'll bring water from Manasi Ganga. Now Krishna, he doesn't like to see the gopis doing any work. He can't bear to see bead of perspiration on Radha's forehead. So he signals to all those places personified, they became one person. And they began to pray to Srimati Radharani that we thought the perfection of life was to be associated with the lotus feet of Sri Krishna. Because you think when all the personified holy places, when Krishna bathed them, they became purified, right? Yet, no. All the holy places became purified because Krishna bathed in them. He said, but now, seeing your divine, wonderful qualities, we can understand the real perfection of life is to be associated with your lotus feet. So Radharani says, what do you want? He said, we want to come in your kund. So Radharani, she smiled at Sri Krishna and she shook her head. You have to know, sometimes it means no, sometimes you just have to know. And they broke the wall of Shamakund and entered into Radhakund. When you go there, you see at the Sangam, there's a little white dome. Underneath, you see in the stairways, there's some hole. That's where the water from Shamakund entered into Radhakund. And many people believe that this appearance was on the Bahulastami night. Because in Padma Purana it mentioned, it doesn't say midnight, it just says that if you take bath on the Bahulastami day of Kartik, Radharani will be very pleased. It doesn't say anything about midnight. In fact, we see all the Brishvasis, they're throwing these peta, the special type of squash. This is some fertility rite that they do. It's become mixed up with this Vaishnav pastime. So they want children. So they come and bathe at midnight in this Bahulashtami. But Srila Jiva Goswami very clearly describes in his commentaries that Aristasura appeared on the Chaitra Purnima. First is Mahaprabhu's appearance, that's Falgun Purnima, War Purnima. The next Purnima is Chaitra Purnima. So Jiva Goswami says that Radhakund appeared on the Chaitra Purnima. Because if you go on Bahulashtami, I gave up going, it's too crowded. Some people have speculated that maybe the time when Mahaprabhu discovered Radhakund. But if you see the timetable in Chaitanya Charitamrita, it's not possible that he was there on the Kartik Purnima. Because it describes that he reached Vrindavan on the last day of Kartik. And he stayed in Vrindavan. So anyway, Jiva Goswami says Chaitra Purnima. Now some devotees have started going on Chaitra Purnima. It's very, very nice. I remember in the old days, we used to go on Balashtami night. There wasn't so many people. We'd take a kirtan party around the two kunds. Then we find a place on the banks and wait till the stroke of midnight. And we'd all go very reverently into the kunds. Somebody said, Prabhupada said, we shouldn't bathe there. And I've heard some spiritual masters have forbidden their disciples to bathe there. But I researched in database, because I remember, because I've interviewed devotees, the first devotees who were there with Prabhupada, he just came, he pointed with his cane, said, this is Radhakund. And devotees, they went wild. They just threw off their cloth and jumped in the water, and Prabhupada with his cane they forgot all bodily consciousness. Prabhupada to separate the boys over here and the girls over here on this side. Like that. Prabhupada didn't stop them at all. But later, the devotees would go there, they would do cannonballs into the kund, they would splash each other, they would fight, they'd do so many things. When Prabhupada heard about this, he became very upset. When you go to Radhakund, you should bathe very reverently. In fact, those who were very strict, they enter in head first. Before their feet, they crawl into the kund and bathe in Radhakund head first. And in the last days, we remember Prabhupada wanted to go on Govardhan Prikrama, and somehow Tamal Krishna convinced him not to go, and the devotees convinced him not to go. He couldn't do it. He said, but Tamal said, we'll go on Govardhan Prikrama. And he starts describing, you can see in the database. He said, we'll go to Govinda Kund, we'll go to Manasi Ganga, we'll go to Govinda Kund, we'll go to Radhakund. And when he said Radhakund, Prabhupada says, you go bathe on my behalf. So we can take Ritwik Snan in Radhakund. That's Prabhupada's, that's the final order. That's my version of the final order. You go bathe on my behalf. So if you go with a small group and very reverently bathe, the final order is you can take bath on Prabhupada's behalf. Hare Krishna. So we'll put our voice to rest here. Maybe you have some questions. We'll try to answer those questions. You can either unmute yourself and speak, or you can write it in a note, and who's ever in charge right now will tell me, what is your question? Now I hear somebody.
Hare Krishna, Puji. Thank you so much, Puji, for nectarian talk. Thank you so much, Puji. I am very inspired by your association, your presence, your wonderful devotee, Puji. We are blessed by your association. Thank you so much, Puji, first of all.
I'm blessed by your association, remembering all these wonderful pastimes.
Actually, I feel very inspiration that how you are always in the mood of Vrindavan, always relishing the nectar of Vrindavan. You have a special blessing of Srila Prabhupada. So I please help me. How can I get this nectar? How can I develop such a mood like you? And please bless me so I can attend this.
What is your good name?
My name is Anarpita Kirpamai Das.
Who?
Anarpita Kripamai Das.
Acha, Narpita Kripa Moy Das. Wow. And you're from?
I am from Delhi, East of Kailash temple.
But where were you born?
From Delhi.
Punjabi?
No, from Delhi, Mayurvihar location.
Acha, okay. Anyway, when Jagadananda, he also wanted to go to Vrindavan.
Yes, Prabhuji.
And Mahaprabhu stopped him so many times. Finally, he insisted, and Mahaprabhu said, all right, but when you go to Vrindavan, you stay with Sanatana Goswami, you see all the holy places with Sanatana Goswami. You will not understand the Brishbasis. They're in a different mood. So don't offend them, and don't associate too closely with them. Don't offend them, but don't become too close with them. And then you return. He didn't tell him to stay there. Because you stay here, you'll forget what is Vrindavan. Familiarity breeds contempt. So many thousands of people living in Vrindavan, but only maybe 1,000 actually meditating that I'm in this Brajabhumi, this holy place, fully absorbed in this thought. But if you go away, then you'll always remember, oh, I went to this wonderful place, Vrindavan. We went on Prikrama with Dina Bandhu, so many places. We heard so many pastimes. When can I go again? And you'll always think of Vrindavan. And one who always thinks of Vrindavan, he actually lives in Vrindavan. So you see all these holy places and always remember. That's how you actually live in Vrindavan. And serve Vaishnava, that's the main thing. Because I'm very fallen, I have no sadhana, I have no bhakti, I have no nothing. But somehow I'm always serving the Vaishnavas by showing them all the holy places. So somehow I'm going on.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Can I ask?
Yeah. Yes. Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, I mean,
Thank you so
Jagdana
much.
Pandit Das, very nice class. I want to know what should be our mood or bhav or prayers while taking darshan or dipping in the Radhakund Shyamkund. Please, can you say some?
Well, we should be very, very reverent. As Prabhupada told us that you were kicking on Radharani. Devotees used, because especially the Americans were very wild. So we just used to jump and do cannonballs and kick and splash. So we should think this place is non-different. I actually have no qualification to be here. But somehow, for my purification, I'm bathing in this place. These holy, because we can't approach Radha and Krishna. We're totally unqualified. But the Radha and Krishna have appeared as these two pools in order that we can approach them very easily. So keeping all these, because we should remember, Rupa Goswami has said in Upadesamrita that the highest place in existence is Mathura Mandal. Because there the Lord appears. And in Mathura Mandal, the highest place is Sri Vrindavan. Is there the Lord exhibits varieties of wonderful loving pastimes with his devotees. And in Sri Vrindavan, the highest place is Govardhan. Is there in the caves of Govardhan, most intimate pastimes are taking place. And in Govardhan, because this Radhakund and Shyamakund are considered to be the eyes of Govardhan. This Radhakund is the highest place in existence. As there's overflowing with the ambrosial rest. So keeping all of these thoughts of Rupa Goswami within our hearts, then very reverently we should bathe in these holy places, especially in Radhakund. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Any other
Hare
questions?
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, Hare Krishna. Dina, Bandhu, Prabhu. Thank you very much for your amazing lectures on this Radhakund. Yeah, this is Chatura Devi Das. Yeah, I
Who?
had one, yeah, China, Chatura.
Chatura, all right.
Yeah, I often saw you in Vrindavan temple. Yeah. So I have two small questions. One is some devotees said we cannot take bath in Radhakund, but some devotees said we can take bath. So
I just
how?
told you this pastime of the final order. Prabhupada said, you all go take bath on my behalf.
Okay.
That's Prabhupada's, then the few days after that, Prabhupada left this world.
Okay.
So that's my version of the final order.
Okay. And what about can
If your
we,
spiritual master says no, then no, but my spiritual master told everyone take bath on his behalf.
Yeah. Because when we perform the Brajamandal Parigram, and then one day we will stay in 1 or 2 days we stay nearby Radhakund, and they will celebrate the appearance of Radhakund, and then the devotees in the Brajamandala, they will take bath there.
But that's actually not, I just explained, that's not actually the appearance day. That's somehow it's become very popularly known as appearance day, but Jiva Goswami very clearly says that Aristasur was killed on the Chaitra Purnima. So that's when Radhakund and Shamakund appeared on the Chaitra Purnima.
Okay. And another question is, can we put Radhakund's mark as tilak?
Every once in a while. Mahaprabhu personally put it, so every once in a while it's all right.
Because sometimes we see some senior devotees tell us we cannot put this Radhakund mark because we are not so qualified.
No, I've never heard such a thing. But not a regular practice, that's all. Every once in a while, for some special occasion, we may put.
Okay, thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So if there's no other questions, we'll stop here. We thank you very much for coming and listening today, giving us a chance to give you some experience of Vrindavan and explain to you Mahaprabhu's experience of Vrindavan.